Thanks for stopping by J-Dub Designs. On today's episode, we're going to be checking out the second part of a two-part series for a desk assembly. In part one, we showed you how to join those boards, how to select where those boards are going to go, the apron boards, how we put those legs together. All of those things occurred in part one. In part two video today, what we're going to be doing, you're going to be seeing how not only those things were put together, but now how they look finished. So we're going to be taking some time to sand, getting some walrus oil on there. And by the way, I'd love to know in the comment section if you figured out where walrus oil comes from, because there is a pro tip in today's episode. I want you to check that out. So don't forget to like the video, share this, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Guys, let's get into this build and check it out.
You know how it is when you're working on something. You make noises so that you can work more effectively. If you're anything like me, you look at these things and you go, how can this turn into a beautiful desk? How can this turn into a beautiful project? J-Dub Designs is all about helping all of us understand we were made to create. Whether it's taking this white oak and putting it together, or whether it's sanding it, getting it ready for finish, or, as you can see, putting this tape on so that we can fill these voids with epoxy. Making sure that all the voids are clean so the epoxy will stick well and set up well. One of the channels that I check out is called Blacktail Studio, and he does a lot of epoxy builds, and he recommended a certain kind of epoxy. I'll have that linked in the show notes so that you guys can check that out. I believe he's an official ambassador for them. That is the epoxy that I ordered, and it did a great job. It was super easy to use. It's a 2:1 mix ratio and set up really well too. Another thing that I really learned on this project, first time working with epoxy, is the importance of cleanup afterwards. So if you want easy cleanup, then it probably helps to make sure that when you're putting it in the voids or making the pour, that you're as neat as possible. There are a couple different ways to clean this up. You can do what I'm doing here with a hair dryer or a heat gun, which softens the epoxy, and then you're able to chisel it. Or Blacktail Studios, he shows a different method of sanding it, which also gets it heated up and then uses a scraper. I think I'm going to try that next time. This didn't work too badly. I was able to sharpen the chisel, get it so that it was ready to go. And then it sanded fairly easily. You'll notice that I'm sanding this project in its finished space. I don't recommend that. Another thing to note is when you pour the epoxy, make sure that the tape or the barrier that you're using to seal it is really strong. I ended up with a mess on the floor that I had to clean up, so I ended up putting a piece of plywood on the bottom to make sure it was sealed. Here's one of my favorite things to do. Get the project all cleaned up so that it's nice and ready for mineral spirits, and it just really cleans the surface. It also reveals a bit of the color and the grain and the pattern. Just turns out beautiful. Guys, just a reminder for each of you, I know you heard it at the beginning, make sure you like this if you would please, share it, and subscribe. If you want to be notified of further videos, hit the bell. First time trying out this product, it's called Walrus Oil. And Pro tip coming up here on JW Designs, you're going to hear where walrus oil comes from a little later. What I'd love for you to do is let us know in the show notes if you were able to find out where it comes from, or if you already knew. It's a natural product, non-toxic, and does a great job just showing the natural beauty of the wood. And the S that you see there, that stands for Superman, or Super Woodworker Man. This was fairly easy to apply. You'll also see a little later here that I use a different approach to apply it, and it was much better than doing this by hand. Pro tip.
What happens is a bunch of Eskimos get together and they walk up to some walrus I, walrus E, walrus O, and they get them to hold real still and they milk them.
Oh. I got an apple sucker.
Do you think that's how they get walrus oil?
Yep.
Nice. I've had to apply this a few times just to make sure that the finish is as I want it to look. What I think is stunning are these two outside boards. They're just beautiful. Oh, here it is. I do really appreciate Milwaukee's M18 and M12 line. I'm obviously not sponsored by them, but I love their tools. And recently, checking out different options for a motorized polish, if you will, and found that Milwaukee has the M18 polisher, made the order, and as you can see, it does a really good job. Super easy to use, well balanced, and the M18 battery that I have in this, I believe it's the 5 amp hour, is really strong. There's something mesmerizing about putting this, the walrus oil on the project. This has been one of my favorite projects to date. I've really enjoyed the mix between the old and the new, taking the antique legs, putting them together with this top, and it's turning out to be awesome. Of course, you got to have fun with every project. Guys, thanks for watching. I hope you guys have a good one.